everybody? Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call tonight's City of Oxford to order. Today is Monday, November 6th, and we are assembled here in the Commissioners Boardroom. And I'd like to remind everybody who electronic device, please mute it or turn it. We are the only business that we have is to set the agenda for a regular board meeting next week on Tuesday, November 14th. But as all of you know, we've had ordinary conflagration in downtown Oxford, and I'm sure everybody is thinking about that. Our responders did an amazing job, and the people have been tragically. If it's okay with the board, before we proceed with setting the agenda, are you okay to hear from an update from our chief, fire chief?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Need me to come forward?
Yeah, you know, that might be good. That way you don't have to worry about shouting.
Okay.
So that we hear you. Thank you. Thank you.
As you said, we've been on a fire call all day. We received a call at 8:28 this morning. Right on scene shortly after, as you know, that the building that was affected. Right on scene found heavy smoke upstairs and downstairs of a downtown commercial structure. Immediately called for PD to block the road and start securing our pathway. Fire was heavy was downstairs. Time to be located. Still I will get SBI, ATL, Department of Insurance came to assist with the investigation off of manpower. Oxford Police Department, Oxford Fire investigation. We cleared up about 30 minutes ago. Turned it over to the owner for security and then for the security building. Downtown, 121 and a half and 123 Wheelsboro Street, 3 addresses that were affected, 2 down, 1 upstairs. Fund stands already being beat to an additional building downtown. Can't I give you that address right now? We're proud of the effort that the guys put into it. Adjacent businesses. We cut the power lot this morning about 9 o'clock, and we recently turned it on to the 2 adjacent businesses so they can start operations back in tomorrow with them to resume the normal operation. Other than that, the fire was under control 45 this morning. We spent the remainder of the day putting out hospitals. Thank you.
Yes, I see. First of all, a round of applause for you. Yours gets extended to everybody who responded to calls. Can you tell us what were the departments that responded?
Yes, ma'am. It was in fire. We went ahead and requested mutual because we needed manpower, as well as the possibility of being into adjacent structures. We got open marriage wall between the 2 buildings.
Thank you. Well, we will communicate with them our appreciation for that. More questions, but colleagues, do any of you have questions?
Just because thanks for what you and Mr. Stokes Department, Police Department, Emergency Services, absolutely outstanding. And we're proud to have you in the Thanks.
Absolutely.
Were there any injuries?
The number of people that on scene, and like I said, included fire outside agencies, volunteer fire departments, state agencies, commercial Graham County was there. Present, we did not have an injury to report, before and during the fire.
Was there any water?
Area buildings, the old town, so it's pulled up in the, basements, insurance companies as well as building owners, as well as the restaurants from the building, and whoever businesses are, in cooperation to make sure that we can back safe with them, as quick as we can. That includes mitigating the and whatnot.
Sir, Commissioner Collins.
I'll say, just to reiterate our thanks to the professional service that you guys exhibited today. And same thing for police. We're lucky to have quality staff. We'll be able to repay. I'll also say the amount of engineering work in replacement of our water and sewer is, that exhibited itself. The amount of demand that was on our system for you guys, without it, we could have lost half downtown. You guys were able to keep the hoses going and the fire under control. And that is because Oxford made the investment years ago to upgrade the systems. And I know it's been a pain in the rear end, potholes and torn up roads, but it proved itself today. There was no disruption of service anywhere else in town. There was no major breaks. Public works rather was not out repairing breaks or leaks. Everything worked as it should, and that is exactly how it should work. And unfortunately, that is not all that common these days. So thank you to everyone for their investment in the city of Oxford. It saved property and very well may have saved lives today.
Can I just ask a question
Please.
from the chief? I heard during the day that it was 1,500 gallons per minute you were putting on that plant.
So, total between the two trucks and the hose lines to the ground, it was probably close to 2,000.
2,000 gallons a minute. So
We had,
Brian
we had
says.
2 areas in operation, 4 each 3/4 hand lines, and we had toppers in place. And this top was between 350 and 500 gallons a minute. And what we'll do is I got a wheel trim.
Right. Oh, well.
So one thing that we look at is our residual water pressure. So we maintain that we keep residual water pressure in the system. If we have to reduce the flow of the line, we'll do that, we do. Because if we pull it down below a certain number, then we start affecting people flushing toilets, water going to industry, things like that. We try to maintain the pressure in the system because when we lose it, now we have a water quality issue we got to deal with. We have to do testing, we have to do flushing, things of that nature. But yeah, up to 2,000 gallons.
To follow up on that, it was from Ms. Ratliff. Had we not done the work with new lines and so on, would there have been a risk with that amount of flow and pressure going through it, have broken some lines, some of the older lines would be in danger, would we have been in danger of that?
So I don't have a crystal ball to tell you that.
Right.
But I can tell you that operating in the residential neighborhoods, we have broken water lines just from flowing water and turning the lines on and off. So downtown, which is an older system, quite
Right,
conceivably, yes, that would have happened today.
right.
Yeah.
So. Yes, sir.
I heard that there was some equipment damage. One of the hoses, at least that's what I heard.
So when they took out the glass in the second story, which is Division 2 of the building that we run hose and cut the hose. We are well insured for things like that. So we're good to go. Hose, we keep spare hose and we put in place that. with that, managers, we are a combination department. We can handle the training side of it the best we can, but y'all handle the provisional side for our capital. And we have a great fleet, good equipment, and we maintain it. So that's what we kind of showed today.
Many of the businesses opened up prior to the.
Man was from an adjacent business hall. And when he called in to file his brother,
I'm grateful for that. For lives.
And that was the comment that, about the water lines, that Commissioner commented, that, this is not the first time that it's a valve that we have great. And you're absolutely right, we need the equipment, but you are leading, accomplishing the training that Amy Ratliff has done to set the city up in a good position to work the PD that was there, everybody. We've had no shortage of denigratory comments over the past 6 months about work that the city has done in some department or another. And I personally could not be more proud. I could not be more proud of the board's decision when we had the first conversation about the board to do this kind of infrastructure work under Ms. Ratliff's guidance. The board's willingness to invest instead of waiting for somebody else to bail us out. The work that our public works department does, you do, the police department, finance, we have committed employees. Our economic development director working on trying to find locations to rehouse the buildings vacated, planning department and all of their work. I just am proud beyond measure to be associated with each one of you that works so hard on behalf of people that live, work, and play here. Thank you. Thank you.
now we sort of all this, yeah, we're getting a lot of accolades from what happened today. When I try and there, and the mayor, and the boardman, and the engineer, and the PD, it's kind of all hands on deck, and things like that. It takes that village. They say it takes a village to raise a kid, but it takes a village to make the city work.
Yes.
So to see that support, like I said, we're glad. I may not have utilized you, I may not have asked you for anything, but I knew you were there if I needed you. So.
Appreciate that.
I'm proud to be here.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today and your effort. Okay, with that, last comment, please lift up those businesses, Amanda Wright, Joe Farrar, Gaynell Finch and her family who have suffered just devastating loss today. Keep them in prayer, and if businesses are able to reopen, get out there and tell your friends and neighbors, support them so that they have an opportunity to enjoy the holiday season as they were hoping to build their businesses even stronger. Okay, with that, to the agenda. All usual in the beginning, any questions about that before we get to? Okay. I actually do have the Morgan Adams Wren Employee of the Month. I'm going to just insert that Adams on the line there. We'll get that information, Finance Director report, and then On to public hearings. Point 1, to receive citizen input on the rezoning for Raleigh Road assemblage from residential agricultural to GR5, as well as to direct the city clerk to investigate the sufficiency of a petition. So I would like to suggest that we maybe separate out the sufficiency, the request to be annexed, and the sufficiency of the petition for the annexation as a separate item for, from the public hearing, which is to hear the comments on the rezoning request. Is that, I think for the public, it's easier to understand that if we have a separate description about that annexation request. Is that okay with the board?
Yeah, so.
Excellent. Then, for public that's here, the zoning from residential agriculture to GR5, 167 plus or minus acre tract of land is being developed under the conservation standards in our new UDO, and the developer is proposing a limitation of 2.49 units per acre for a total of 417 units. Ms. Hart, is it true that are they, because that allows townhomes?
GR5 does allow
Right. So is that the, that's the reason for asking for GR5 for free?
GR3 certain amount of townhomes, so I think we should look at.
Do any of my questions? Yes, sir.
In looking this up, I think what this particular is looking for is efficient. I have no particular people put together proposal and plan. However, backing off of my comments from this video, there's not enough, in my mind, I guess, delineation and just a general development. So I've been under the understanding that if I development zoning request, that it would be really the land would be left for 25% of open record. And the way it kind of reads, it's the opposite. It's which is, I think, maybe not it. So I think that's adjusting in our UDO for us again, is to just an up language that's in the because conservation development incentives to come with conservation development. There's really not a lot of thing between the two currently. I think that my assumption is that's better clerical error. Should be the 30 managers or office. I'm not looking in front of me. That being conservation plus an additional 25% for recreational. Because that's less area that they have to install infrastructure, move less trees they have to cut, which is the conservation development. So I'd say we probably need to make that adjustment to the language in the UDO so that is more.
And I will make sure that we'll start that and just for the record, I think we've all had one other conservation.
Exactly.
That development to this is how we have.
Exactly.
And so as we're just cleaning it up a little bit.
I went back and looked at that one. The same one I was thinking the it was called Baker's. I went back and looked at it, but then if you look at the language, it doesn't match what I guess our intent would be. So we probably need to make.
So I'll make sure that that's looked at.
you know, does that work for you all? Cheryl looks at that.
Yeah.
Given, I think that in this particular case, and also with Vickers Assembly, the additional density, but as video, if they actually combine, they can get 2 more dwelling units per acre. If you do a conservation development, you're 7 dwelling units per acre density in exchange green space. But the way we have it written, right, percent preserved green space rather than 55%. So it's a good thing that they didn't want that density for us. So that works for you all. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Ms. Hart. Excellent. Any further questions on Raleigh Road assemblage item?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I sent an email regarding the updates and what has transpired between the developer and the neighbors. Would you all need a paper copy?
Else is kind of like a little bit of paper and any kind of presentation for the benefit of the public so that they understand, you know, kind of to explain everything that's involved in the request.
I'll be glad to. And they're going to do a presentation as well. So I'll be glad to do it, and we'll just basically hear a repeat of what I said from what they're going to present. But I'll be glad to provide some.
Okay. With pleasure of board.
I mean, if they're already gonna present,
Yes, will they be presenting the same level of, from the planning director's standpoint that?
Difference. So they probably will send in their presentation to us, and I'll just look at it and there's some different presentation, but I agree that there will be a lot of people here if it's based on planning board's leading, and so we'll have a lot of
Yeah,
I would maybe say that anybody who wants a paper copy, just make a request, to the city clerk and have that printed and available. And then, like, I don't need one.
So- the one was about the changes, I think, to maybe the land use planning map and the location and what it is currently and what is requested. I wasn't sure whether they're going to be those aspects to the same extent that you might. So
I'll be glad to give you a presentation.
if you could, if they're covering it,
They did at the planning board
Okay.
meeting, but I'll just make sure I have something prepared.
They changed the access point, I think, for some of the neighbors.
They did, and they're covered.
I think it would be a major asset to hear because we're still early on a lot of these developments, and it will be educational to us as board members to hear it, as well as people in the community, that we can build this base, because after a while, we're gonna have so much development going on here that, you know, we're gonna know it all pretty soon. But anyway, but yeah, this will help with some of our learning curve. So to hear from your perspective and how the bigger picture for our future, you can start this educational part with us and the community now. And get everybody acclimated to our new terms and our new, what all of these things mean. I mean, yeah. Good. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you very much. We good with this one? Okay, next one, very similar. The conditional zoning request for Notch Grove assemblage, and conditional rezoning request, excuse me, from residential agricultural to GR5, conditional use district, also considered directing it again, so this was blended with the investigate the sufficiency of the petition. total acreage is 261.59 acres, or 5 dwelling units per acre. The developer is proposing 3.23 units per acre, or 836 units. So first, again, are you okay with separating out the request for annexation from the public hearing? Okay, and then, given that, do any of you all have any questions for Ms. Hart, the manager, on this item?
Other than what I stated in the previous.
Okay, excellent. Okay, and we carry on forward to city business. I will consider calling for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the annexation petition by Bruce and Kellie, and authorizing the city to investigate and certify the sufficiency of the petition. So, I think, yeah, maybe. And so the owners are petitioning to have 1.9 acres annexed for future development off Hicks Mill Road. And so I noticed earlier today, so Ms. Bowen said she did have an attachment that had more information.
I said that I would read it out tomorrow.
Right. Right, so the attachment is on, so she'll make sure that all tomorrow when she's back at work. So do any of you all have questions on this item? Okay. Thank you very much. Item 5.2, resolution to accept additional funds for the 2018 sewer main project in the amount of $1 million. So the division of request for increased loan assistance for this, and the funds will come from the Clean Water State revolving fund in the amount of $1.5 million. And so this will raise the total for the project from $6,142,139 to a new total of $7,642,139. So any questions on adopting a resolution to accept the additional? Okay. I actually have one question, Ms. Ratliff. Is this a zero interest loan?
Yes.
For our water. That in the narrative so that I can publish. I think it's important for people to know when we're spending money. And point 3, consider approving a carry forward on New College Street. In June this year, the Stormwater Fund work on New College Street, and it needs to be carried forward from the 22-23 year to the 23-24 year. And do any of you all have any questions on this item?
Just, where do we stand with the stormwater projects adjacent to it? Are they ongoing? Have they yet to start?
Well, it's $100,000, intersection at Big College.
Yeah.
The other two projects that we have going on with stormwater are studies right now.
So I guess the question is obviously they completed at least the remediation with New College in Wingsburg. Is that in compliance, or is it just repaired today?
That was one of Mr. Glasgow's projects, never saw that, but my understanding is they have completed it. What's the next step is actually getting the roundabout in.
With respect to the studies, do we know when we'll be able to review those studies and start making operational decisions or planning decisions for stormwater upgrades?
So the master plan for the western part of the city is nearing completion, and so there are some recommendations for that. the study for the eastern part of the city is just getting started, so that will be a little bit farther out. And then the brick FEMA study, that deals more with resiliency is going to hopefully start in the near future. We recently received information that the 2021 was to be awarded.
Thank you. Questions on that item? Okay. Item 5.4, consider adopting a resolution accepting additional funds for the 2018 DWI sewer project and approving the budget amendment. So this is actually related to the other one. Board had previously approved water and sewer for $1,424,850 for this 2018 sewer main replacement project. We had also approved asking LGC and the Division of Water Infrastructure for a loan increase of $1.5 million, which has been approved. And so we have already read where that money is coming from. So the budget amendment for the 2018 sewer main replacement project will reflect the additional increase for the project of $75,150 and a loan increase instead of a fund balance transfer. And so we had the ability to do the fund willingness, but we had not actually moved any. Okay. Just want to be sure. Colleagues, any questions for Ms. Ratliff or Ms. Trepler on this item?
Was this just for the increase in the materials because of the other contract? This increase here? We dropped the other contract. I knew we were going to get it at the price, but we had to pay increase in cost of materials. Is that right? This
Most of this money is actually the addition of the Hillsborough sewer that was bid as alternate in the funds in the original budget, but the need for change order with regard to materials, and we're looking at how much impact that's going to have overall now that we're getting closer to the end of the project. We can determine how much we are not going to need certain line items and how much, we're over on others. So we may be back to talk to you guys again.
We made, what was the last?
Maybe back to talk to you again about, what the ultimate end price is.
Excellent. But this was certainly, that Hillsborough Street sewer line was desperately needed.
And we wanted to do both of the utilities as long as we were out there.
Right. Excellent. Thank you very much. Any further questions, Commissioner Toby or anybody else?
No.
Anybody down here? Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Ratliff. And Commissioner, item 5.5, consider adopting a resolution accepting the FEMA BRIC grant funding for flood vulnerability study. So this Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program from FEMA has awarded the city a grant in the amount of $105,000. Thank you very much. The city will use this funds to perform a flood vulnerability and risk assessment to develop a more comprehensive and detailed understanding of flood risks to its infrastructure, key public services, and historically disadvantaged communities as a basis for developing a strategy for reducing flood losses and disruptions to the city. The total project cost is $150,000, and the city will contribute a 30% match in the amount of $45,000. Do any of you all have any questions on this item?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Any idea how long this particular study will take?
Less time than it actually has taken us to get the funds.
Cool. for us trying to get this fund, so they anticipate this being fairly.
I would say it would be, maybe 9 months, sit down with the engineer once the funds awarded and look at what their workload is compared to when we anticipate the money, so they'll have to work us back in the schedule.
What likelihood of the year we say so?
Okay. Excellent. Is that good? Everybody good? Okay, I think the next one, we actually probably need an item number next to it. So that should be item 5.6. And that is to consider authorizing the city manager to enter into a Wi-Fi zone agreement with Open Broadband. The downtown businesses have expressed a desire to have a free Wi-Fi zone in the downtown district. This will allow people to use their phones, tablets, and laptops for free. Some points on the agreement are being finalized and will be sent to the board as soon as that is done. That's the manager is handling that. Staff recommends authorizing the manager to enter into the agreement. Do any of you all have any questions for the manager on this item? And you do have some information at the end of your agenda packet. Well, actually, I'm on my agenda packet. You're at your hot link. Yes, Commissioner Gilreath.
Well, during COVID, we had all of these hot spots, and I thought downtown was part of it. So how is that any different than what this is? Or has that COVID hotspot stuff gone away, or?
Imagine it gone away, but I don't know that. I wasn't here when that started.
So I'll give you the perspective from DOEDC. So there were limited hotspot access given, if you remember back during COVID, I believe it was like the parking lot of Rutgers Gym and a couple other spots, if I'm not mistaken.
Hicks Gym.
Hicks Gym, I'm sorry. Hicks Gym. The idea for a broader downtown Wi-Fi gives a more consistent signal across all of the central business district, which is beneficial, particularly when we're doing hot sauce festival and other things, that those vendors are able to connect to something, because the cell phone towers become overloaded. So if they're using credit cards or things that cannot maintain, the cost has come down significantly. When I first joined the board, it was on DOEDC, the cost was probably 60 to 65% more than what it currently is. So the cost of the equipment has come down significantly to be able to provide that broadband access downtown. And we feel it would be a benefit, particularly since we have more businesses operating in the downtown area. We have co-working spaces operating in the downtown area. Plus, we have more festival needs that can leverage that infrastructure during hot sauce and other various events that are going downtown. So that's kind of the antithesis of it.
Well, when I read the county website, it talks about some of this stuff. And so maybe there's some misleading information on that website then, because I really thought that the housing authority had an upgrade in their broadband as a result of, and I just assumed it was ongoing, as well as what I've read probably in the last year at least, that the county has upgraded some things too. And so I was just curious if they were one and the same, and if they're not, then we might need to take a look at the county website.
So I think Commissioner Khan has a comment. I would say that I believe what happened at the Housing Authority is when we were trying to work, and it was probably with Open Broadband at that time, that they were kind of struggling to keep up with the demand for work. And I'm pretty sure that Mr. Wortham went ahead and made arrangements to get accessible Wi-Fi for his residents independently of the city, I'm pretty sure. But Commissioner Khan has a point, and then I have a question about related for the manager with respect to Open Broadband versus it's not centrally with the other folks.
Fred speak now.
Right,
So,
yes, thank you.
So there is two initiatives. One is to bring the infrastructure to areas, right? So that's what you're seeing on the county side. So it's to bring to area access being operative for two communities. So Oxford is one of those communities. They're spreading it throughout the county. I don't know the exact footprint, but that is part of that initiative. What we're talking about for downtown is being able to connect through your phone or your tablet or your laptop to a broadcast Wi-Fi signal that's tapping into probably that that same network. But there's a difference between bringing the infrastructure to the community, which is what the county's focused on, and then turning on the service, if that makes sense. So we're offering a service that you can connect to where the county, the funds they receive are bringing the ability for homeowners and other folks to be able to tap into internet when they may not have necessarily had that opportunity previously. So it's two different initiatives. Okay. So brought to your house, then you got to pay for the service, and then broadcast service available for downtown. Okay. Yeah, completely different. Yeah.
And
I wouldn't be exactly.
my follow-up to that though is, did you have a conversation with Brightspeed? Because I know they are also, they've been working, because my understanding is part of the contract that they have with the county is that they would work to bring high-speed broadband to Oxford because we have that dense population. Was there any kind of conversation with them to find out if they are interested in doing this for us downtown and how their pricing might compare with open broadband?
So we looked at a couple of different providers. This was the lesser expensive option.
Okay, excellent. So are they going to have, be antennas on the towers, or?
There's going to be, they'll definitely use the water towers. There'll be some other access points throughout the city that'll kind of determine things.
And one last point there.
Yes,
If you
sir.
happen to look, if you're going up Waynesboro towards the hub, there is an example of what that may look like on top of the hub that was placed for, I think it was placed for hot sauce. So it's hard to, it's not easy to spot, but if you see it, it's a, 16, 17 inch device that's able to broadcast, but that's approximately what you're looking at.
Great, no, it's, this will keep people sitting on our benches downtown and enjoying themselves and enjoying that atmosphere that we have, in addition to what we can offer folks during festivals and so. Okay, now going back. So any further questions or discussion on this item? Excellent. Then we have the consent agenda. And I think I started that way last week. So this week, I'm going to start. Mr. Burnett, do you have anything to add?
Go ahead.
Mr. Taylor, do you have anything that you would like to bring up?
I would like to look at a couple of committee meetings, in particular with Public Works, with the purpose of discussing amending the water ordinance to get rid of some inconsistencies and to make sure there's some procedures that you want to continue with. Also, you haven't noticed, there's some street signs, I'm talking about road street signs that are in need of at least replacement. So we have a couple designs we would like the committee to look at before we start moving forward with those replacements. This is independent of the wayfinding and branding. This is just your typical street sign, but we wanted to look at dressing that up a little bit. We want to make sure you'll be okay with that. Also, our cemetery care, we're looking at how we maintain some of our cemeteries, potential acquisition of another one, so we want to discuss those things. And then also with the Planning Business Community Development Committee to look at getting acceptance for a development agreement basis. Each development agreement will always have things tailored to it specifically, but we want to get your guidance approval on a generic development agreement moving forward, so that makes it easier when you start the negotiation process. I believe, Commissioner, are you still looking at having the 14th for the Parks and Rec meeting?
Yes, I was like to be able to test out diligent as part of that, but yes, I am. If that works for Tina who's not here, I'm still fine with that date, or we can look at a date that more aligns with her schedule.
And I was just gonna say, if we wanted to do them all at the same time, we could do that, just one after the other, or we can set individual dates, whatever your pleasure is.
So you were thinking on the 14th of this month?
So I had two objectives. One was to give some updates from Tina, and two was to, as we were learning the diligent software, how we would manage committee meetings within that software, and we were going to do a test of running committee meeting with the agenda and the notes captured and so forth through diligent as part of that, if we could. That was the original intent for Tina and I doing that meeting. We don't have anything that is pressing that I'm aware of, again, without her, I don't know if I'm speaking on her behalf, but that was the idea of that meeting, was to use that as a testing grounds to make sure we can get the software working as intended
Right.
for that, for committee meetings going forward. So if we can make that happen for the 14th, that works fine. If not, happy to still continue as a test at a different date, but I'll let the director make that call, if that's okay.
So,
Yeah, I think she was okay with that.
She's fine with it, I'm fine.
but that is, so for the rest of the board, so what I'm hearing you talk about, Mr. Taylor, is that you've got several policy items to discuss with respect to water, the water and sewer department, as well as the street signs under public works, is the cemetery property committee.
I think that would be some overlap.
Right.
Potentially, if we looked at acquisition of one, so.
So
I can see
that's
that.
kind of and so you're talking about one, the contract work that we do for caring for the cemeteries as addition to probably acquiring additional interest. So, and then there's the development agreement. So I'm just clarifying this for, Mr. Taylor asked, do you want to consider all of these things together, or do you want to parse them out a little bit for?
I've got one issue that I need to look at for the 14th, and we're meeting tomorrow at 1:30, so we can discuss it.
Okay, so that is board meeting day, that's next Tuesday, correct? So what is the pleasure of the board with respect to considering everything, or separating it out into smaller bits?
Let's consider everything together, let's get it over, Commissioner Bridges is the only one that has a problem because you're limited to your time, I think.
Well, as I was saying, I've been having trouble
And you might
Right.
have to.
today on the 14th.
I have a lot going on that day, but I could probably be available
Okay,
Well,
after like
that shuts
around
down.
2-ish.
so,
What time are we really, what
Yeah.
time he was thinking was like 4:30? Right.
Yeah, I was thinking we could start maybe 4 or 5. I think we can knock pretty much, I think, all these out within a couple of hours. I mean, unless you just had a lot of questions, but we'll try to present it, as pretty concise and clearly as possible, obviously. And then really, most of these will only take 5-10 minutes of presentation work, then it'll just become whatever questions you have. So,
Will we get anything in writing about?
oh, yeah, absolutely. You'll get,
Prior to?
absolutely. Yeah, you'll have time to study it before.
so, given, I'm gonna just be a little more specific, because when you're talking about committees, so we have Commissioner Bridges is on planning, business, and community development, along with Commissioner Lumpkins, and Commissioner Toby is chair. Public Works is Commissioner Bullock, Commissioner Gilreath, Commissioner Bullock is chair, Commissioner Gilreath, and Commissioner Khan. And then property is Commissioner Lumpkins, Commissioner Toby, Commissioner Gilreath. So my question is, are you, for you, Commissioner Bridges, can that work for you? Because this is almost going to be something where everybody is going to be needed in one sense or another, for one group or another. Does that work for you, starting something at 4:30 in the afternoon? Or from your perspective, would it be better shifting that to a different afternoon rather than board meeting day?
I think 4 o'clock could work, as long as I have a little lead time. Where I can schedule the away from work
Okay,
early.
so we need
4
to,
o'clock.
and we need to hear back from you. Do you still need to have your meeting tomorrow before you know whether
4 o'clock I can do, probably.
4 o'clock you can do? Is it, reasonable to consider maybe bringing in box food or something like that in case the timing pushes us close enough to the board meeting that we can make sure my colleagues are fed?
So we're talking recreation also.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, like I said, with the absence of Tina, the last we spoke, that was what we were planning on. Unless anything's changed, then I have no issues.
You will see recreation.
I'm not going into that.
normally I say if you have something to say, we just say. So,
About recreation, that do be right in the mix.
that's right. So everybody's part of this
Everybody.
soup or stew. Okay, so we're shooting for a meeting that starts at 4 and runs through all of these topics. I think it would be very helpful to have an agenda that keeps them all straight, keeps us on task, and we'll have a little discussion about some kind of not too complicated or expensive food. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. So now we move through, and we write my little note. Okay, Commissioner Lumpkins.
Just again, thanks to everybody that responded to the fire today. I was on the way to Raleigh and somebody sent me a picture of it and I kind of freaked out a little bit. So it didn't look good. So I'm glad everybody was safe and it wasn't more damage than it was. We have a great fire department, police department. And another part of that, I wanted to thank the fire chief and all the employees of the fire department that put on the open house.
Yes.
That was great. There was a lot of kids that were having a lot of fun out there. And they even had a bouncy house. So that was the only thing my daughter saw when we got there. So that was a really, really good. She keeps talking about them taking the roof off of the car, and it's good for them to see stuff like that and see what you guys actually do. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner Bullock.
I do express my appreciation and thanks, as everyone else has said. Secondly, although it's pretty well coordinated by the county, I do appreciate the city's input and participation on the Veterans Day Parade. Alyssa and the other young lady, Sabrina, were very involved in that, so we're very thankful. It was a good day and a good parade. Finally, this Saturday at 11 o'clock, we will have a Veterans Day ceremony at the post. We have a young lady, Shonda Harris, who's going to speak. She is a combat veteran. And I was corrected her the other day because I commented that she's a female veteran, and I was told that all veterans, doesn't matter which way. So we do have a combat veteran who's going to speak Saturday, and we invite you all out to attend.
Thank you very much. And that's 11, and social hour starts at 10.
Yeah, we're bringing it in the hall, it's 10 o'clock, the program will start at 11.
Right. And American Legion Post 90 across from Food Line.
Correct.
Okay. Across from Commissioner Guillory's house. That it is more precisely across from your house on Lake.
Just more
Road.
traffic for you, true.
There you go. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Piggyback on what's been said, thank you to the chief and to all of our dedicated employees, not only for today, but for all the work you all continuously do to make Oxford shine. Something that's been bothering me is from the incidents that we've had over the past 2-3 weeks with the shooting and all, and I don't know what we as a board can do, but as citizens, we need to come up with something to save our youth. If the board take a leadership role in it, fantastic. But I've been hearing from so many people saying, I'm afraid to go out. I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to do that. And that's sad. I find myself being a lot more aware, even here in Oxford. But we can't just sit back and wait for someone else to take the lead in trying to come up with something. And so I ask each board member to put on your thinking cap of what can we do as leaders of the city? What can we do to let all of our citizens know we care about the city and the future? We've got a lot of development and growth going on that's coming, but we've got to take care of the ones that are here now. So whatever we can think of collectively, individually, along with our chief of police, the fire department, anybody, give me a call of where we need to start and what can we do? Because it's something got to be done.
Thank you for those comments, and is it okay if Chief Ford, do you have any thoughts that you would like to add? And I'm not trying to say I'm putting you on the spot, but I just mean if there's anything that you're thinking that you'd like to throw into that thread.
I agree with Commissioner Fields 100%. It's going to take this entire community. It's going to take our churches, our stakeholders, our business owners, and just your average, everyday citizen. We have to come together and, I'm going to say it this way, take our community back.
Yes.
We've got to take our community back, and the police department cannot do it alone. We simply cannot do it alone. We're going to need the help from our community, and that includes our commissioners.
Yes.
And all city workers.
All of
especially
us.
all city workers. Yeah, it's going to take every one of us, every single one of us. A lot of what we're dealing with are juveniles, and young adults, and many of these children are second and third generations that they've been quote unquote customers of the police department for a very long time. And I will be the first to say there is not enough involvement for children and the families in this community. We need activities, we need after-school activities. Boys and Girls Club do a fantastic job, but they cannot do it by themselves. We need activities. We need to. I've always been on the mindset if you can get your child involved in an activity, whether it be some type of sport, it keeps their mind busy, and it's not idle time for them. We just see so many children roaming the streets, because they have nothing to do. But we can't just build a basketball court and not provide some type of structure for these children. And I think that's where the community becomes involved, with maybe retired coaches or even active coaches that are willing to donate and volunteer time to these places, even at Hicks Gym, on the ball fields, the basketball courts, and what of Boys and Girls Club. We just need a lot of people to step up to the plate and say, you know what, this is our problem. We may not have, my children are grown, but it's still part of my problem as being a resident of Granville County. It's everybody. We've got to take over that, but we've got to do it.
And there may be some value in having a conversation. It's unfortunate that Ms. Cheek isn't here, because certainly your comments about recreation and whether or not there's, depending on her capacity, and maybe we need to be actively recruiting that and offering sponsorships to be able to participate or or something like that if she.
And I think it would be a very good idea to reach out to J High School, Grandview Central High School, and are well on their way to college, who can be mentors to young volunteer time to read kids and some type of after school, assist the children in math, and where we're seeing our failures at. And we certainly see failures in Granville as far as what our children and what they're not learning.
My thing is, I want us to, and when I say I'm including myself, I want us to get started. It's getting heads together to formulate and to get entities from all areas together to formulate something and start it, because each day is a day lost. And each day is a child lost. It's a family grieving, 2 families, 3 families grieving. And we're at the point now where we cannot sit back and close our doors and wait for somebody else to do it. We as a city, we've got to do it.
You're absolutely right, and I will add to it, and he certainly has not said, do not share this. But you realize the city and the county both had a homicide on the same day 3 weeks ago. Actually, the woman in the county that was killed is the aunt of one of my officers.
Yeah.
So that's just how all this violence and all this shooting that's happening, not only in Oxford, but all over Granville County.
Yes.
It's affecting many of us, and a lot of times we don't see.
And when I say I'm including the county. We've got great
Absolutely.
county entities in it. Nobody's left out
No.
of this. But we can no longer sit back and just talk about it. We got to do it. Because you never know when it's on your street, your house,
Or your relative.
or your relative.
That's right.
And I'm doing myself up.
No, thank you. That's brought up a lot of important information. I'm gonna ask a question that is gonna sound probably a little bit stupid because it's not from the same preventive aspect, but there are hot spots. It doesn't mean, unique that only things happen in hot spots. But is there any value in some of the places where there tends to be, congregating and sometimes erupting in negative ways? Is there any value to be looking at putting cameras or anything in any of these locations?
Actually, Mr. Taylor and I had a conversation about this about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
About investing in some cameras to strategically place throughout the city. That will help us with any type of crime.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it be residential burglary or a business break-in, homicides. But I think it seems to be a proven effective method in other communities. And I think it's something that it's about time Oxford steps on board.
Yeah, okay, I'm glad to hear that I'm not way off in left
No,
field.
you're not way off. You're not way off.
With that.
You're definitely on point with that.
Thank you very much. I have a last thing to bring up, and I'll save that till later. Commissioner Bridges, anything from you?
Yeah, I enjoyed the discussion. It's always good to hear some discussion when it comes to our young people. I will say that, just to back up a little bit on a little lighter note, if we want more folks to participate in parades and have an audience, we have to include candy to throw to the kids, because parents will bring children to a location. If those children say, I want to go to the parade, they're going to throw candy. I'm telling y'all, the numbers are gonna stay like they stay, and now, it's okay. But, I mean, the reality is, there were not a whole lot of people out there for the veteran parade. And, the mayor knows that I, changed my schedule, because, I had something scheduled later in that evening with some friends who were having a anniversary. I showed up at the Veterans Parade, and my first thought was, where are the people? We can glamorize and make it sound like it was a huge event. And you know what? Our veterans should get more recognition relative to the participation of the community. But we all know that there are things that draw people to activities. And if we don't start getting to speed and buying some candy, we are going to have lackluster participation in parades.
I think our chief has a comment.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm very passionate. In my order is military and then law enforcement. I'm a military spouse and have been both 25 years. One of the things that I had mentioned several years in a row, and I understand the city's reasoning behind it. We always celebrate Veterans Day the weekend prior. But the weekend that we celebrate prior, I'm telling you, we have a very, very large community in Granville County of veterans, retired and active duty, National Guard members. We have a tremendous amount of veterans in this county. But the weekend we choose.
4,000 in the county.
Yes, sir. And that weekend, Commissioner Bridges, is their work weekend every single year.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes,
So they
ma'am.
can't be there?
No, they cannot be here.
Okay.
Except for the ones that come up and bring the LMTVs and the different type of vehicles. They're actually working their own duty during that time, and that's their assignment. But if we could choose another weekend, maybe the actual weekend, I understand other communities have their own activities, but it's always been my motto, I don't care what other communities, what are we doing? What's Oxford doing? Let's make Oxford be a part of one of those communities that does something along with everybody else. And I think that's a big hamper on
Turnout.
the turnout, yeah.
Okay, well, this is, Mr. Taylor, are you taking notes how to
Already started.
pass
Candy and all.
it on,
Shoot
Kenny?
the calls.
We meet our guest commissioner, carry on.
Right, and like I said, I'm enjoying the discussion that Commissioner Fields started about our young people and about all, violence that's going on. Of course, we see violence nationally, but certainly locally we see a lot of violence, and I get to see it up close because up in the courtroom we had juvenile court today, and all I can say to you is that there are a lot of young folk who are misdirected and are getting into some big issues. But to be quite frank with you, I think it's been our political movement, so to speak, here lately. When I first came to this community, we had Big Brothers program, we had Friends of Youth program, we had Second Chance program, we had all kinds of programs to try and reach out to the community in terms of difficulties. And politically, we cut those programs because we don't put them as priorities until we start seeing the statistics showing folks shooting each other, and we wonder what happened. So our politics has created some of the problems that we have today. And that's on the national level as well as the local level. And until because I've sat on this board and seen programs cut, telling me, well, You know, we have to be better stewards of the tax dollars of our constituents. Yeah, and then when folks be shooting at each other, shooting, and women get shot in the head, sitting in their homes, we want to talk about what do we need to do. So start funding, you know, how much money do we give the Boys and Girls Club?
I'm not sure that we do.
We don't?
We don't think
Oh.
It's zero.
zero.
Wow.
I was at the meeting the other day.
Well, I brought that up a couple of months ago in our meeting,
Yes, you
in
did.
this meeting, that we need to fund the Boys and Girls Club.
All right,
We need to start looking at
recreation.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you. Very eloquent. Commissioner Choate.
that. There's a couple of little things, I'll try and keep it brief. On to Pat and the youth. I mean, we started off the other week with a 3-on-3 basketball, right? That's a good start. I think that's a good start. And Chief Ford mentioned about getting involved with the youth and things. There is a program in the schools around this area, reading buddies and mentoring people. We should all, I'm involved in that. I do it every week and I mentor this little kid. And that's the start, and that's where you need to get them when they're that age. So I would encourage everybody here to sign up for this, to help our youth and let them have someone to look up to, apart from the troublesome home life that many of these children live. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
You know, I was gonna call on you to mention reading buddies, so I'm glad that you read that. So, excellent, yes. And you go to Cradle?
I go to West Oxford
You go to
Elementary
West Oxford?
West Oxford.
You both go to West Oxford, okay. Once a week?
once a week.
And so for people that would like to sign up for reading buddies, how do they do that?
Kathy,
No, oh, gosh,
They can
contact
central office?
Central Office.
Central
Okay.
Office, yeah. Because you have to go through a procedure, you have to have background checks done again to do and everything else.
Right.
you know, so.
Okay, excellent, very, very good, thank you very much. Commissioner Gilreath.
Well, as you guys know, we have an election tomorrow.
Ugh.
But while I've been out there in the last couple of weeks, one of the things that I am hearing a lot of though, and it directly piggybacks on what Pat has said and Juan and several other people about what do we do when we do have our killings and victims within our community and the responsibility of the city to the families and the victims or whomever is involved in it. Do we have any type of reach out or condolences and what would be appropriate? And I honestly don't have an answer unless I personally know the person. I don't know where to begin or what the circumstances are or you know what I mean? And I don't want to call, the chief to find out, is it safe? Will I be interfering with an investigation or whatever the case may be? But what do we have in place that people feel like their elected officials realize that something's going on in our community? And what I'm hearing is that they think that we don't care. But I know I care, but I'm also guarded in what I want to say and how much involvement I'm going to have in any of these situations. And I don't want to impede or impair anything that I may not know about so I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, it's not that I think the board is insensitive. I think it's just a tough situation. And to be honest, I mean, just something simple as death and dying. I mean, that's hard to deal with, to sincerely offer your condolences when it means one thing when somebody that I love say something to me or I'm in a relationship with or people that really know me, but then other people know that something bad has happened and say, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. I mean, what does that, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that, and I keep hearing it and I don't have an answer, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
Well, independently of the cause of death, I can say that on behalf of the board, for every obituary that has an Oxford address, which is well beyond the city of Oxford limits, I write a handwritten condolence note. So I may not know whether this person was, there were a couple that I wrote years ago where I knew it was related to a shooting. But I can tell you we have sympathy cards and I write a handwritten note to them so that if it's in the paper, they are.
So so many of these probably don't make it in the paper though.
I can't speak to that, I'm saying.
But you're doing that as our mayor because that's what you do as our mayor.
Correct. Well, that's what I do, so I'm sending.
Okay, so those that don't make the paper then, and maybe that is a true statement then, because I suspect many of these young folks, you know,
I don't know, I mean, I couldn't speak
depending on
to
where
that,
the
and
services
the
are.
chief would know, certainly on my watch, if there's anybody that's aware of something, I'm always happy to write a note, but I've had my share of notes that have been written where the deceased is, and so it could be a victim, overdose or violence or whatever, but it's
So
true.
there is a certain degree of reaching out from the community, but it's coming from you. I mean, from you representing the board.
Correct, and without knowledge of the particular circumstances. But Chief, would you like to speak to Commissioner Gilreath's questions in terms of the issues that are involved?
And I don't even know how to respond to that, Ms. Gill. I really don't. I don't know. I think what the mayor is doing is very commendable. And she does represent the city and speak on behalf of the city. I do not recommend any of our elected officials actually going to someone's home. You never know what the circumstances are, and it could add agitation to a situation that's already hot tempered at that time. That just happened in our last homicide, and got a lot of, it wasn't well received. So of course it came back to the police department. But I certainly understand what you're saying.
And when we had the Piedmont situation, my
Yes.
my follow-up comments with you at that point
Mhm.
was, where do those family members go and who's advocating for them after the fact to get the level of therapy that they may need as a result of being involved in such a
That would, I would, and Commissioner Bridges may be able to answer that better than I can, but I would think that falls under the Victims Assistance Program through the court systems. They reach out to people, in our community that have been victimized in some type of way. They make that initial contact. I don't know what all is offered through those services, but I do know that happens.
Yeah, the district attorney's office has a staff who makes contact with families, that have been victimized.
direct.
And talk with them about, possible counseling and certainly try to keep the family aware of where the investigation is.
And also there is some funding at certain times
Yeah.
and certain circumstances, there is some funding that the state will actually, if the family is eligible, those funds will be transferred to the family.
Thank you for raising those questions. I appreciate that. Commissioner Khan.
All right. So staying in the same vein, the comments we made earlier to in regards to our thanks for our first responders for today's events. Goes without saying. It's germane to the current conversation. We all have a copy of the winter programs from Park and Recs. I will point out that this has been something that I probably drive Tina nuts with, is the expansion of our programs. And in the last several years, particularly coming out of COVID, and particularly since we've been able to up our staffing, thanks to the increase in pay, and be able to maintain those positions, we've been able to offer, continue to offer more and more here. So I will point out that we've expanded a lot of our classes just in the last year and a half, and we're recruiting younger ages now, all the way down to 4 in some areas and all the way through the age of 18. So we're really kind of getting the whole gamut here as we continue to offer the services and look at expansion of existing parks and so forth. This is a step in the right direction. A drop in the bucket, but a step in the right direction. I know I discussed this briefly with the police chief. We go back, since I've been on this board, to the level of violence that has impacted this community. I will say it's not for a lack of law enforcement. It's not for a lack of effort by the folks on city staff. I think this is something where we need to begin to be more proactive as a board and communicating with our state leadership. We have significant gaps in both crime prevention, as Commissioner Bridges pointed out, as well as consequences for those who commit violent crimes with guns and so forth. We have folks who are getting out faster. They're bailing out faster than the officers can get back to the police station to fill out the reports. And that's a problem. So it is something that we need to continue to invest in our community programs, invest in prevention, but also begin a campaign of influencing our state elected officials to increase the consequences for violent crimes that are affecting our communities, so that our community members feel safe, and continue to fund prevention programs, or reinstatement of funding prevention programs, so that we can curtail this issue that is frankly plaguing our community. So with that, I am done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for pointing this out. I have a comment related to that, and which of course I can't ask without our recreation director being here or get a response. But given the breadth of programs, maybe one thing we could start to do is solicit donations for scholarships, so that kids who would like to participate but are unable to, we might be able to better support that.
Yes.
And that's a thing that can be privately supported, where the city is obviously already supporting the programming. That's maybe there's independent friends of Oxford Parks and Recreation that we could start that could take donations to support kids.
It's not a bad idea, because I have young kids who participate in Oxford Park and Rec, and we find ourselves donating equipment to make sure that folks are outfitted, particularly for baseball. So to have that level of engagement from the community is not a bad idea, and well worth the research and effort potentially.
So that's one thing. I think talking about lobbying at a higher level, I would point out, this is a conversation that I've had with our chief, is that a year ago or so, there was the Raise the Age, and that was a concerted effort across those. It's a well-intended effort to avoid felony convictions on young people that will follow them and limit their opportunities for the rest of their lives. It's to raise the age of juvenile offense from 16 to 17. The unintended consequence that I hear from the chief is that has enabled some kids to do more damage because they are working for people who understand that the consequences will be limited if they put them at that. So that's an example of a well-intended policy change that for some youth is exactly what is needed, but unfortunately not for all. Did I capture that effectively too? I'm sorry. Did I capture that effectively, the kind of the good and the bad side? Okay.
And
So-
just to put that, it was raised, the age was raised from 16 to 18.
18, okay, I apologize for that. That's huge.
It is.
That's huge. I also just briefly wanted to bring up two things, and one of them is, and I know, we're dealing with so many financial issues because of all of the salary increases and everything, that I don't want to ask for additional investment, but I always worry when the temperature goes down, and goes really down, what resources are available for our homeless people? So this is a question without a thoughtful answer. Last year, Cornerstone Christian Community Church and the Sheriff's Department and a number of people rallied together when we had temperatures in the teens to help the homeless, but I'm going to ask our board to be thinking I was originally going to say, can we allocate money and offer contract to someone who would be willing to do this, to open up shelter when temperatures get below a certain degree. My heart aches at the thought, we already had down to freezing last week, about people being out in this weather. So I would ask that we think about that. And also, in a very logistical thing, STEM is having their combined Christmas and Veterans Parade next, this coming Saturday afternoon. I've already committed to be there on behalf of the city. I'm happy to do that on my own, but if any of you all are interested in being with me, please shoot me a message, and so we can accommodate you. And and we will have candy, and my granddaughter will probably be in the vehicle with us for anybody who wants to come.
One
Yes, sir.
It's a very good point, because last year I helped participate in getting folks to Cornerstone Baptist Church. We had those freezing temperatures over Christmas. We'll ask a question of our city manager, who is briefly engaged. Would it be possible to see if we can formulate some type of partnership with County Emergency Management Services? Should we get down to those extremely dangerous temperatures like we had last year? Of course, we're here for those, but what we were missing was a joint effort, because typically the County Emergency Management Services would be spearheading shelters and things of that nature. If there's any type of partnership we could start with this year with them to help facilitate something, because we were lucky in the fact that we had community churches that opened their doors, and we were able, between the county and the city law enforcement, to get people to shelters in time. We need to see if we can be a bit more prepared this year, and I think that would be a great partner to start with. So I know you have frequent conversations with our peers at the county level, see if they have anything maybe we can jointly work together.
Transportation was a problem
Thank
last
you.
year.
Wonderful.
I know the police department transported some of them at some time, but.
Police, sheriff, I had volunteers, we rounded up all the folks that we knew about the best we could, but it was a shoestring operation that went off successfully, but it would be great to be more prepared this year.
Okay, excellent, thank you very much, Commissioner. And with that, as we've made our zoning board of adjustment wait, any further comments from anybody? So entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Motion by Commissioners Khan and Mayor Pro Tem commentately. All in favor, signal so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Okay, and thank you again. 3 cheers for the Oxford Fire Department and everybody.